He was handsome, articulate, and ambitious. He volunteered at a suicide prevention hotline. He studied psychology and law. Women found him charming. His Republican Party colleagues saw a future politician. His name was Ted Bundy. And he was responsible for the deaths of at least 30 young women, though he hinted the real number was closer to 100. No serial killer has fascinated and horrified America quite like Ted Bundy. Not because of what he did, but because of who he appeared to be, the boy next door with a monster inside. Theodore Robert Bundy was born in 1946 at a home for unwed mothers in Vermont. He grew up believing his grandparents were his parents and his mother was his sister, a deception he discovered as a teenager. Despite this troubled beginning, Bundy seemed to thrive. He was an honor student, worked on political campaigns, and was accepted to law school. He had a long-term girlfriend who saw a future with him. But beneath the polished surface, something was deeply wrong. In 1974, young women started vanishing from the Pacific Northwest. A college student disappeared from her basement apartment, leaving blood on her pillow. A woman vanished after leaving a bar. Another was last seen walking home from a concert. The disappearances had an eerie similarity. The victims were young, attractive, and had long hair parted down the middle. They had all vanished without struggle, without witnesses. Someone was hunting them. Witnesses began reporting a charming young man who approached women with his arm in a sling, asking for help loading items into his tan Volkswagen Beetle. He introduced himself as Ted. Some women refused his requests and survived. Others weren't so fortunate. Bundy had discovered that his greatest weapon wasn't violence, it was charm. His clean-cut appearance and confident demeanor made him seem safe. Women literally walked into his car. On July 14, 1974, Bundy's boldness reached a new level. At Lake Sammamish State Park, in broad daylight with thousands of people around, he approached multiple women asking for help with his sailboat. Two women, Janice Ott and Denise Naslund, agreed to help him. Both disappeared within hours of each other, their remains found months later in a nearby wilderness area. Bundy had abducted two victims from the same crowded location in a single afternoon. Witnesses remembered a charming young man named Ted with his arm in a sling. The description of Ted and his tan Volkswagen circulated across the Pacific Northwest. Tips poured in, including some that named Ted Bundy. His girlfriend reported him to police. His former psychology professor reported him. Investigators interviewed Bundy but found him personable and cooperative. He was a law student with no criminal record. He didn't match their profile of a killer. They let him go. In 1975, Bundy moved to Utah to attend law school. The Pacific Northwest disappearances stopped. Young women in Utah and Colorado started vanishing instead. Carol Duranch survived an attack by a man impersonating a police officer who tried to handcuff her in his car. She escaped and provided police with a description. Weeks later, Bundy was stopped for a traffic violation. In his car, police found a ski mask, handcuffs, an ice pick, and a crowbar. Ted Bundy had finally made a mistake. Bundy was convicted of Duranch's kidnapping and sentenced to prison. While incarcerated, he was charged with the murder of a Colorado woman named Karen Campbell. Allowed to serve as his own attorney, Bundy was given access to the courthouse law library. On June 7, 1977, he jumped from a second-floor window and disappeared into the Colorado mountains. He was recaptured 8 days later. But Ted Bundy wasn't finished running. On December 30, 1977, Bundy escaped again, this time through a crawl space in the ceiling of his cell. He had been secretly sawing through the metal and acquired civilian clothes. By the time guards discovered he was missing, Bundy was on a bus heading south. He would never be recaptured in Colorado. He was headed to Florida. And his most horrific crimes were yet to come. In the early hours of January 15, 1978, Ted Bundy broke into the Chi Omega sorority house at Florida State University in Tallahassee. In less than 15 minutes, he attacked 4 women, killing 2 and severely injuring 2 others. The violence was unprecedented even for Bundy. He beat his victims with a wooden club and bit them repeatedly. One survivor would bear bite marks that would later help convict him. Bundy wasn't finished that night. Blocks away, he attacked another woman in her apartment. She survived but suffered permanent injuries. 3 weeks later, Bundy abducted 12-year-old Kimberly Leach from her junior high school in Lake City, Florida. Her remains were found 2 months later in a pig barn. Kimberly Leach was Ted